Hi everyone, and welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. This is part 2 of the ABT Tasmanian Tour on the mighty Derwent River. This one was run and won on the 18th and 19th of April in 2026, which was a weekend, but still confused me. Anyway, another cracking event, obviously in the non-boaters. We had Simon Kraus, Leighton Beer, and Marty Evans, and then in the boaters, Mario, Steve Morgan, and Isaac Harris. Anyway, cracking event this one, great results and some big bags. Let's roll the intros and I'll tell you about the bite period so we can get right into the show. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. This is where you need to be every Tuesday to find out all the latest tips and tricks to help you target bream on lures. You'll get to hear from some of Australia's elite bream competition anglers and see how they were able to achieve their results in competitions around the country. Now, here is your host, the 2019 Hobie Kayak Fishing World Champion, Andrew Deeth.
Okay, so on the Saturday, the 18th of April, we had 90 in the fish activity wheel with a minor bite period at 6:42 a.m. through to 8:12, with a major bite period at 11:15 through to 1:45 p.m. High tide was at 8:44 a.m. at 0.85, running down to a low tide at 1:37 at 0.61. On the Sunday, we had 76 in the fish activity wheel with a minor bite period 8:01 through to 9:31. Minor bite period, so I got that wrong. The major bite period was at 12:12 through to 2:42. High tide was at 10:11 a.m. at 0.83, running down to a low tide at 2:20 at 0.70 of a metre. Let me know what you guys think about the bite periods. I've been extracting these from the Fishing Points app since I started. I tried to use some AI to pull all the data, but I found the data all different. So I'm not sure what to do about that, given the tides were very similar, but the bite periods were vastly different. So in terms of keeping everything consistent, maybe I should stay with the Fishing Points app. Anyway, let me know what you think. All right, let's get into the episode. Here comes our non-boaters. Okay, so first up, in third place in the non-boater division, we have an angler dropping 3 fish for 3.155, backing it up on the Sunday with another 3 fish for 3.230, which gave him a total of 6.385 for his 6 fish. I'd like to welcome back to the Bream Fishing Project, Mr. Simon Kraus. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, Andrew. It's always good to chat.
Mate, you have had a great start to the year.
I've had a phenomenal start to the year and I'm really enjoying the fishing at the moment.
100%. And when we look at the Tassie bags and there's multiple people getting better than a kilo average as a non-boater, that's pretty great.
Oh, it's very good fishing over there. Very good.
Very good. All right, let's talk about getting ready for this one. So obviously you'd fished the event just before it. In terms of the Derwent, did you get a chance to have a pre-fish?
Yeah, went out for a pre-fish with David Yule and because it was blowing a gale on the pre-fish day and we managed to get out for a couple of hours and we found a few fish and very much so round structure that day. Yeah, some good fish out there in the deeper water.
Nice. So if you were fishing the deeper water, what was your go-to then in terms of lures?
On the pre-fish, it was a VX vibe.
Okay.
That we got the bigger fish on around the bridge pylons.
Wow.
In about 6 metres of water and absolutely smashed the vibe.
That's great. And are you fishing the 35 or the 40?
That was a 40.
Yeah, okay. So slightly bigger.
Yeah, the black vibe with the orange belly.
Okay. That's a Morgo special.
Yep. So orange belly was certainly a theme there for the whole weekend.
Yeah, awesome. And did you get any fish on anything else over the practice day?
Yeah, we caught, I think there was a range of fish on Daiwa Double Clutches in the 60 mil and the ZipBait rig. We caught a few on that as well. And I think I got one on a Slim Z for the day. That was it.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, let's roll into comp day. Tell us, who did you get paired up with and what did you get up to?
Well, I was blessed on day one because I got Isaac Harris, who was a local. So he ended up winning the comp. And on the first day, we went upriver.
Yeah.
Because it was still quite blowy on the first day. And, yeah, a very, very good fisherman. I learned a lot off Isaac.
Okay. Very cool. Tell us some of that and tell us how you went about catching some fish.
So we fished edges on the first day, and edges and out into about 2.5 metres of water. So I was throwing a 70 ZipBait rig, shallow up on the edges in an orange with the orange belly.
Yeah.
And my first couple of fish actually came on that lure. And then we went through a stage where Isaac started throwing a 75 sprat, Hurricane Sprat, which I moved over to.
Yeah.
And he was virtually a fish a cast. And these were all 32 centimetre fish. It was unbelievable fishing.
Wow.
So it was interesting to see how he went about it. But I honestly believe for every fish I caught, he caught 10.
Wow. Wow.
So it was just amazing.
And were you able to modify what you were doing to try to make that gap closer?
Yeah, he certainly helped me out. I was obviously fishing too light at the start and went a bit heavier, so because the fish were hungry.
Yeah.
Those are the words he used. And so very rare for me to fish any more than a 16th and fishing a 12th, a 75 sprat with a Daiwa jig head.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it got down quick, and the fish were sometimes picking it off before it got to the bottom, and other times they'd pick it up off the bottom. So when you went to lift, you could feel the tick.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, certainly day one I got outfished significantly, but still managed some good fish, and the better fish come on that 75 sprat.
Yeah, okay. And was there a particular colour, or did you go through a mix?
On the first day, I was throwing, I'm having to think a bit here, it was a darker purpley coloured sprat.
Okay.
But the majority of the fish come on what they call the gun, which is a green, light green coloured sprat. And that was certainly a standout on day two.
Yeah, interesting. And if you were fishing the edges, what was it like? Were you sort of casting in really tight or?
Yes, tight into the rocks, the weed. There was a lot of weed. There was a lot of floating weed there too.
Yeah.
And the fish you got on the edges come within the first one or two twitches.
Yeah.
But all the fish on the plastics were out in that 1,800 to 2.5 metres water.
Yeah, interesting. I'm just looking through the sprat colours and trying to work out which one it was that you were using.
Sickle.
Okay.
Sickle.
There you go. And in terms of your experience with the sprats, is that something you use quite a bit, or is something you kind of jumped over to?
That's the first time I've ever fished them.
Okay. There you go. An instant result.
It's seriously the first time I'd ever fished it for more than one or two casts. So, yeah, because I fished the hybrid, 85 hybrid and those sort of things previously, but very rarely had fished a sprat. And, yeah, it's got a very different action in the water, and it certainly got the fish's attention.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So throughout the day, did you catch fish all day?
Yeah, caught fish all day, and my two biggest fish, and this seems to be a common theme, were right at the end of the day. So right at the end, we fished a rock wall that had a very steep vertical drop-off on it.
Oh, yeah.
With a lot of current on it. And I pulled a 37.5 and a 38.5 off that wall.
Wow.
Within the last 20 minutes.
Wow.
Which tossed out a 34 and a 36.
That's obviously made a very big difference to your competition.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Well, there you go. So you came back in, you had just over 3 kilos at 3.155. Where'd that have you overnight?
I think it was in about 4th or 5th.
Yeah, okay.
It might have been 5th, I think. So, yeah, it was still up there. Still up there. So, I was very happy with that because I went over there with the aim to get a top 10 finish. So,
Okay. Yeah, very, very good. All right. Day 2. Who'd you get paired up with?
I had John Albright on day 2.
Yep.
Absolute gentleman of person.
Yeah.
Yeah, just had a few laughs during the day, and I can't thank John enough. He just made my day on day 2, and I won't forget that day in a long time. So
yeah, okay. All right, well, tell us about it. How'd you start getting into them?
So day 2, we started a lot higher up. So up around the Bridgewater Bridge on a flat up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the second cast of the day. I got a 37 fork fish.
Okay.
And I thought this is going to be a good day.
Mm.
And it slowed down a bit. So it took a long time to get up there, about 40 minutes to get up there. And yeah, had quite a few casts there around a snag and moved around a bit there. And then we moved back into a bay and a pocket that John had fished the day previous. And he was casting in, and believe it or not, I cast out because the sprats just worked the day before. And I thought, well, if they work there, there's every chance. And I was casting out into a current line.
Okay.
And it was only second or third cast was another 34 centimetre fish.
Wow.
And we stayed there for quite some time, and we would have caught a lot of fish in that bay.
Yeah.
And I'd already had me bag. I think first fish in that bay was me bag. So we fished that for a while, and John got a couple there. And then we moved further down onto another bay and a bank that had a bit of current on it.
Okay.
And it was a fisher cast again.
Wow.
All on the sprats.
Yep.
And I reckon between us we would have caught, day 1 I reckon I probably caught 30 plus fish. Day 2 I reckon it was 60.
Wow.
It was just amazing fishing. And they were all in that 32 to 34 centimetres, and then you get the odd bigger one amongst them.
You're right. And this is on a lure that you haven't thrown till the previous day, or not really?
Correct. And it was only watching what others did with it that I learned. And this is the benefit of doing non-boater, is seeing what other people do.
Yeah.
And really, I'd never fished it before.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I mean, it's been a lure that keeps popping up over and over and over, and obviously you've seen that now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we fished there, and we both done very well there. And on a little corner there, later in the day there was a couple of bigger fish come off a corner, a 37 and a 38 again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I had 2 37s and a 38 and a half on day 2.
Wow, that's a cracking bag.
Yeah. That's Gippsland Lakes at its best.
That's right. That's exactly right. In terms of technique, did you fish most of the time on the deeper side, or did you cast into the bank as well?
No, I swapped it up a bit. I threw the hard body quite a bit as well.
Yep.
You have a couple of casts with the hard body, and if I didn't do any good, it was always, because you're catching fish, you always go back to the plastic and throw that as well.
Mm.
So it was really a mix, but it was basically the sprat that did all the damage.
Yeah. All right. And in terms of what sort of leaders were you running? What sort of line classes?
So I upgraded to 6 pound for the comp because, 3 and 4 pound just doesn't cut it with those fish. It's because they go hard, very, very hard over there.
Yeah, they go hard, and also on the back of the boat, it's obviously not going to be as easy.
Yeah, so 6 pound leader and X-braid braid, which I think is 14 pound that I'm using.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly got the job done and allowed you to pole smaller fish in too.
Yeah, this is true. Was that your first trip to Tassie for this sort of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. First time I've been over there bream fishing, yes.
Okay, and thoughts on going back?
Oh, definitely. Next opportunity I get, I'll be back over there. It was phenomenal.
Right. How good is that? Well, there you go. Well, mate, I think that probably covers. Was there anything else that we missed with the fishing? Does that cover it all?
No, I think that covers pretty much it all, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, then what did you get to take home for third place?
So third place was a cranker crab pack, which was a number of cranker crabs and a couple of hard-bodied lures. So they'll certainly come in handy over the journey, especially this year, heading up to Hawkesbury and the Tweed. And I'm very thankful for that, actually.
Yeah.
The people that support ABT are wonderful.
And did you get a chance to meet Steve Steer?
No, I didn't, actually. I didn't have a chance to talk to him, but I'd certainly I'll make an effort in the future, I will.
All right. Last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Oh, definitely. I've got to thank my two boaters, Isaac on day one and John on day two. As I said, absolute gentleman. I can't thank him enough. We had a bit of a chat at lunchtime and he certainly was willing to talk, and he was just a great guy on the day. The ABT community in general, everybody is easy to get along with, great people. Everybody says, well done and so forth, and that's always positive. So Steve and Nicole do a wonderful job. And, lastly to Dave and Tony, who I travel with. Without them, I just couldn't do this.
Yeah. Mate, and the last thing before we do say goodbye, mate, you are sitting nice, high and dry on the top of the rankings at the moment for Angler of the Year. So what other events are you going to look at?
Definitely going to do Hawkesbury and the Tweed and possibly Gladstone.
Okay.
So we'll give it a good crack, yes.
I was going to say another podium. It'll be hard to beat, I reckon. So there you go.
We will try.
Fair enough. That's all you can do. All right, mate. Well, look, as always a pleasure to have a chat. Congratulations on another good round, another good series, really. Yeah, hopefully we do get to talk to you after one of these next events.
That would be wonderful.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so coming in second place, I have an angler dropping his three fish, weighing in 3.520. Backing it up on day two with another full bag weighing 3.17, giving him a total of 6.690. And second place, I have Leighton Beer. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Mate, that is a cracking bag day one, mate. 3.5 kilos for three fish. You must have been pumped after that.
Yeah, it was really good. It all came early, so it was just one of those tournament days that you're really happy to have.
100%. Actually, it makes a big difference. If you get even just a full bag, let alone a good bag early, makes the whole day so much nicer.
Absolutely. No, I'm probably guilty of letting it affect me a bit too much sometimes.
Fair enough. All right. Let's dial the clock back a little bit. Tell us, what do you get up to in terms of pre-fish or getting ready for this comp?
So getting ready for the comp, I had to rely on I did some of the Hobie rounds and didn't perform as well as I'd wanted to, but I got fishing and I got time back behind the rod and reel, which was really good. And I probably used up all my credits at home doing those. So when it came to pre-fish, my partner's pregnant, so I had a 20-week baby scan. So I wanted to be there, and I'm also not brave enough to even raise that with her. So pre-fish didn't exist for me, and it was a home water. Plus, being a non-baiter, it just weighed up that I wasn't able to do it, and that was okay.
That was okay. Okay, all right. So let's say it's your home water. What'd you tie on? What were you going to take out for your first? What do you think's going to work first up?
Well, that's another interesting story too, and I'll probably embarrass myself, but day one I fished with Joey Gardner, and he sort of had a quick chat to me at the briefing, and he said, I'll probably fish 3 to 4 meters to begin with. What sort of things do you like to fish? And I didn't even register what he said, and I just said, double clutches, I like atomic minnows, I like sort of baitfish patterns in the jerk baits on the Derwent. And then I went home and I turned up the next day and I said to Joey, I actually didn't even register what you said. So I basically went home and dug out all the plastics and thought, I'm going to have to fish stuff that I don't fish, and this will be interesting.
Right. Okay. Well, the score sheet is say that you had a pretty good day. So let's go into it. How'd you start? How'd you go about getting a couple of fish?
So I guess Joey had a plan. He pre-fished and he had locations that he'd seen fish holding. So we went to a shore in the old beach area that was predominantly a rocky edge, and we were sitting in about 3 to 4 metres casting at that edge, which had a significant drop-off, and we were just working plastics pretty aggressively. I saw he got a nice fish on it, and I was just trying to follow suit. There's plenty of fish schooled there, but they were actually all the same model. So they were all 30 to 32s, and there was no lack of fish. It was actually really good fishing because the wind was hitting it hard. There was a bit of current there, and it was how you want fishing to be in a tournament. It was a fish every couple of casts. I think first 3 or 4 fish we might have got double hookups, and it was just really good fun. And I didn't know Joey before this, but he's obviously a gun angler and his reputation precedes him. But he had a plan. He sort of challenged what I normally think, and we fished the same shore up and down numerous times, which that's not normally my style. But with the wind and the current and the conditions of the day, they seemed to be schooled. They were holding and they were reloading quickly. And we were just both catching, those 30 to 32 centimetre bream. And then I happened to get a 37.5 pretty quickly.
Okay.
And it just, unfortunately for Joey, fortunately for me, I was just plucking the better fish on that stretch, whereas he was sort of chugging through the 30s, 32s. I got the 37.5, a couple more small ones. Then I plucked a 35, and that's just how that went for 3 or 4 drifts.
Wow. Okay. So I haven't spoken to Joseph yet, but I'd imagine he would have been on a Z-Man streaks. So whether that's true or not, I'm not quite sure. What about yourself? What was your plastic of choice?
My plastic, I was fishing the Hurricane Sprats 85 hybrid in a super oil UV. And for no real reason, I know they were on the baitfish, but I'm not a plastics fisherman. I don't churn through heaps of them, but I do have a couple of Hurricanes because they're obviously an in vogue lure and for good reason. They work. But that's just the one I picked on that day, and that's what I was throwing, and it was working.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but to be fair, I'll let Joey talk about what lures he was using, but he was definitely catching more fish.
Okay.
But was possibly lure choice, but most likely angler.
Yeah. Yeah, with the plastics, I haven't been on the boat with him, but I know his technique is quite good, a little bit different. So.
Yeah, I will enter as a boater next time, but given my situation in life and just the time I had this time, I really think that's a positive of these comps. And entering as a non-boater, I'm not a plastics fisherman. I get to fish with a bloke that obviously knows what he's doing. And I think I've heard he likes to use them a lot. And it just sort of challenged my thinking of, I even said to him a few times, like, this is great. I was like, geez, I'm going to get out a double clutch. And I throw it a few times and he'd just be whacking fish. And I go, oh, I really want to fish what I like. But I was like, I just got back on the plastics.
Yeah, which is cool. All right. So you went up and down this bank a few times. You said you got a 37.5. Was there anything else from there that ended up in your bag?
I think there might have been a 35, but it was just one of those rare days where the fishing was good. So I filled it quick, and then I was feeling a bit bad because Joey was a very sharing and complimentary baiter, and he probably was letting me do what potentially not many other baiters had let a non-baiter do. So then I just sort of started throwing him out a bit down the back and out wide because I was hoping he'd be able to sort of get the same fruit and fill his bag a bit better.
All right. Where'd you move off to? What did you get up to after that?
I went down to a shore near Cadbury's. We worked that old beach one just to a point where Joe was pretty happy with what we'd got, and we were consistently hitting those same models, which wasn't going to do what we needed to do. I was pretty happy with my bag already, so it took the pressure off, and I was actually just able to relax, enjoy, watch what he was doing and go from there. But we went up to Cadbury's, and essentially he'd identified there was more fish holding there in a very similar way, but it was still a rocky shore with a drop-off, but probably half the depth in comparison to the first one. And again, it was probably a 150-metre stretch, and we just worked that for hours. And again, really challenged my thinking because, I'd probably do one drift, maybe two of that shore and go, yep, righto, no dramas. But obviously Joey's got a fair bit of knowledge and skill behind his processes, and he was of the opinion that with the wind, it was quite a hard southwesterly and it was blowing right onto that shore. And he just said, maybe if it was calm, this wouldn't be an option, but he was pretty happy to keep persisting. And at that point, I think he got a 38 and a couple of 36s. And I'm not lying to you if I said I reckon he was catching a fish every 3 to 5 casts.
Yeah, right.
And they were just different models, all around that 30. He got the 38. I think he got a 36 or a 35. He ended up with 5.5 odd for the day, but it was just really methodical. And he just had a plan of, I know the fish are here, they're schooling, they'll move through here at various points. And he just, showed a bit of masterclass in working through them until he found the better models. And I think I upgraded one of my fish to a 36. And then I just had a really solid bag.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was a cracking bag. And did you get all your fish on the plastics, or is that all you did for the rest of the day?
No, so we finished in that area, and I guess got to a point where we sort of felt that was exhausted as well, and we tried another rocky edge that was shallow, and I had a double clutch in the garfish tied on because I bit of a running joke for the day with Joe. I said I'm catching one on a hard body, like I can't fish my home water, and I'm not a plastics man. This is ridiculous. And I think I got a 30 on the shore with that garfish, and then a few twitches and something hit it, and it just instantly was gone. Okay. So then there wasn't much movement on that point at that time in that rocky shore, and we just agreed it's just, to me, it's a fishery that you need water movement, you need current, you need wind, and it wasn't happening. So we went down into around the Shag Bay Bedlam Wall area, and again we went fishing deep on those drop-offs, and Joey again was doing really well. Don't want to give away his secrets, but he was fishing a vibe, and he was smashing fish. And again, I was like, I don't fish vibes on this water. This is ridiculous. But then it started to annoy me that he was catching fish and I wasn't, so I put on a little Duo Bivvy vibe, and I caught a couple of fish as well.
Yeah, the Duo is the best, mate.
Yeah, but just it's very hard not to get roped into it as a non-baiter when you're throwing deep diving lures and plastics and they're not doing anything, and your other person on the boat is catching consistent fish with something else, and you go, I'm going to have to join you.
You have to do it. So, okay. So the bivvy, what colour were you running?
I actually don't know what colour it was, and I did actually try to Google it before this chat, but it's an older colour because I got given a few once upon a time. It was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's an international or a Japanese one, but it's black with silver sort of flank, and then it's got like a real purpley bit on it.
Okay.
And for all my Googling, I just couldn't find what colour it was, and it just doesn't seem to exist anymore, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, with the bivvies, because I chased them for a long time, there is a lot of international colours, and there's been colours come and go and all sorts of stuff. But I do know the little profile really works. When it's on, it's on. So,
but no, great fish, and not fish, great vibe. They just seem to be being a bit picky and a bit more shut down and deeper, and they just, I didn't smash the fish on them, but I picked up a couple on it, and it just, again, it was just, I had the luxury of actually having a reasonable bag, and I wasn't panicking, and I could just try some other stuff and go, if I upgrade, that's cool. If I just catch a fish, that'd be nice. So it was a really nice day.
Yeah, cool. All right. So was there any more? Or did that kind of round out that day?
No, that rounded out that day. I think we were pretty happy. Joe's competitive, so I think we both wanted him to get another big fish or two, but I think he was still happy with how he went. And I think I was certainly surprised. I thought I had 3 kilo, but I was a bit surprised at how the fish weighed, and they were genuinely fat fish, and they'd just been gorging themselves on those anchovies, so they were just really thick and healthy.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
All right. Day 2, tell us about your day. Who did you get paired up with, and what did you get up to?
So day 2, I was with Kim McIntyre. I think he was travelling with Joey, and he's a fellow WA fella.
Okay.
So on day 2, had a bit of a chat with Kim, and he had a sort of rough plan of what he was going to do, and that was fine. And I decided that I was a plastics fisherman now, and I had to duck to a local shop overnight, and I bought myself some Gulp Smelt Minnows in the 4-inch, just because it was just resembled the baitfish much better than what the previous ones I was using was. So I thought I had a plan. They were chunking the plastics day 4, and I'd just throw that wherever Kim took me. But
yeah,
we started off in the lower reaches. We were down around the Lindisfarne area,
okay,
because I think Kim had got a bag, and his non-boat had got some fish pretty quickly in the morning. So he just wanted to go and fill up there and set the day up. And the wind was actually blowing a fair bit harder than predicted, and it was pretty fresh. I think it was coming off the hills, and it was just still had some southerly in it. It was just bitterly cold. And that spot just didn't produce for me. And Kim got himself a 33 centimetre fish. So not a bad fish, but certainly didn't fill the bag up. And we spent an hour or so there, and it wasn't so productive. So we did one more drift of it just to make sure that we hadn't hit the wrong line, or if they were at a different depth, different zone. And yeah, again, didn't provide any fruit. So
yeah, wow,
had to reconsider.
Yeah, okay.
From there, we chugged upstream a bit, and we ended up in the vicinity of the Bowen Bridge, and we're on the western shore. There's no secret about those areas. They're a pretty productive patch.
Yeah.
And it was the first spot that we'd seen that actually had a bit of flow, and it just looked like something's going on. So we stopped there, and I think the day had actually got on a little bit by now. I think we'd spent a couple of hours down low, and I think Kim might have got, I can't remember if he caught one. I'm unsure exactly. It's a bit hazy now, but at some point after that, I caught a 36 off the shore that played up nicely, and I was using a bigger plastic, so I'd had a few little inquiries, but then when one finally got it, it seemed to be a better model. And then we thought, oh, well, this is good. We might be in room in the shot here, and we'll just keep trickling down. But I'd started to sort of get a bit, not nervous, but it's hard when you're sitting in second and then you come in, and I didn't have a fish for the first couple of hours. And I was thinking this is going to be a bit tougher than yesterday. And the weather was improving. It was starting to drop out and get a bit calmer. And I was thinking, oh, this is going to be interesting. But so that fish sort of started to settle the nerves. But then, yeah, we worked that shore. I think we did two drifts of that just to make sure we were catching them, because it's the first sort of patch we found that was holding some fish. And Kim got another couple, just your standard sort of size, which was good.
Yeah, right. So what have you got? You got 2 at that point, or just the one?
I had just the one.
Just the one.
I think Kim had maybe 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
I'm not quite as on top of my fish at this point, because they were sporadic and definitely weren't panicking, but we thought, oh, they'll come on a bit later. We'll just be patient.
Be patient. Be patient. All right. Where'd you head off to? You did a couple there and then moved on?
Yes, a couple of drifts there, and then we went up around the Cadbury's area as well. I'm aware that Kim had fished it the day before, because I saw him when I was on my other boat. And so we fished in a similar area, just working a point there that, again, looked to have a little bit of flow. And we picked up another couple of fish there. But again, they were sort of that, I think Kim might have got a mid to high 20s. We got a couple of 30s, and I think I might have filled my bag, and Kim had got to 4, if not 5, around that point. Yeah. But we were starting to tick through a few more fish, but they were small, and we weren't feeling it at that point. I don't know. It's one of those up and downs when you're fishing on these baits, and you both try and be positive. And Kim's really good. He's an excellent fisher and he loves it. But I was trying to be positive to him and trying not to get down in the dumps, because it's just thinking when you're going through a strong position, you're like, oh, I've got a couple of 30s here and it's approaching lunchtime. Oh, this is pretty tough.
That's right. That's right. Did you stay with the smelt, the gulp, or?
I stayed with the gulp because it was getting some interest. I did jump back to the sprat, and I even did try a hard body. I tried a Duo Resant for a little bit, and again, just probably overthinking it, but I didn't get too many casts in the harbour before I thought, it's not happening there. There's a fair bit of weed around from the pretty heavy southwesterlies the day before. And yeah, I don't know, I was feeling the plastic, so that's what stayed on.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. At some point, you must have got a couple of reasonable ones.
Yeah, so we went higher in the system again.
Okay.
Because we weren't finding them, and we stayed around that Old Beach area, probably a bit south of Old Beach, and again throwing deeper rock walls, persisted with my plastic, and it pretty much glassed out. And it was warm, still, not much happening, and where there'd been fish galore on previous days and confidence, it had just dried up. Right. So we gave that a quick hit, and then I think we both decided that this isn't happening. And morale wasn't low, but Kim was trying to pick me up, I think, and saying, where do you want to go? You're the local. And I said, I don't mind, mate. I said, I'm not changing your day. But, all this, I knew from previous that sort of the good fish were in the middle of the river, it seemed. And we just thought, they're not deep at this point. There's nothing moving here. We need to just change it up. So Kim actually took us up higher to a flat on Old Beach. And I'm not vastly experienced with flat. I fished it once or twice, but I normally stay below Bowen Bridge. And we had a look down. It didn't look too bad, but it was quite shallow, probably 30, 40 centimetres. And it was quite weedy. And then it was sort of over a weed bed. There'd be patches of a bit of silt and mud. And it was like, oh, yeah, right. And we just had a go on it. You get to that point in the tournament day and you're not really finding the fish, and the new areas you're hitting, it just didn't seem to be going. And for me, that's a hard one when you're fishing a stretch and you probably don't have a plan.
Yep.
And I think Kim would agree with that we'd run out of ideas, so to speak, and we were just thinking, right, we need to change this and find something different. And we motored in a bit, and Kim actually, I think we decided that, this isn't that great. We probably need to go find another shore and reset. And then we you could see a bit of a reef sort of coming through, and it just looked a bit shallower and different.
Okay.
And then it was, I'm probably glamorising a bit, but Kim would pretty much pulled the electric up and said, oh, we're going to go. And I just cast up to where there was just a bit of current that started to move. And I thought I got a tap from a salmon. And I thought, so I think I just got a hit from salmon. But I was just like, let me have one more cast, mate, and we'll see. Because it actually was the first bit that looked like it had come good.
Yeah.
And I'd actually forgot to mention I'd tied on a Duo realist in that 80 mil.
Okay.
Because it was just so shallow that I just looked in the tackle box. I'm like, what is going to keep me above all this weed? I just need something to get me in the area. And that was the most likely looking thing I had. So I cast back up where I got those little salmon taps. Pretty much as soon as I landed it there, it was one twitch and just got hit hard and it ran. And I was like, wow. And we got that fish in and it was a solid 36.
Yeah, nice.
And so Kim and I collectively agreed that, right, well, we had a whole flat ahead of us and we thought, you beauty, and everything changed that instant. So we're still, I think it was 1 o'clock at this point, maybe 1:30. And we went, this is awesome. We've got we have a stretch that we want to fish. We've just got to fish, things to turn around, and we've got time to do it.
Yeah.
But as tournament fishing goes, I don't know if I jinxed myself, but this Bream had absolutely monstered this 80 mil. And there was probably the top 10 mil was sticking out of its mouth. And I was thinking, oh no. And it was just bleeding a little bit and it wasn't having a good time. So Kim helped me out with a bit of coaching and we just cut the lure off and put it in the live well, let her recover a bit. And I threw a little one back in, which was a bit tentative at first. I thought, oh, this is, my luck. I'm turning my bow around. So I now had 2 36s and probably a 30. And I wasn't sure how it's going to go. But anyway, got back in the tackle box, got out another 80 mil in a slightly different colour. And in the meantime, Kim had got up front of the boat. He'd cast up there and clunked pretty much like next cast from mine. He got himself a 38.
Wow.
And we thought, this is great. I think we'd be making it up the exact specifics of it, but within the next 10, 20 minutes, I got another 36. I'm not sure if Kim got more fish. And we even said after it that it was certainly, I've done a little bit of tournament fishing now. And it's one of those days where I've nearly written myself out of it and thought, I was in a great position, but we didn't quite get there this time. To that little 20-minute stretch, the morale had picked back up. We were fist bumping. We had chunky fish laying on the deck, and we just had to spot lock and go, right, Kim had his 38 there, I had another 36, and it's like, let's sort these fish out. Let's get ourselves organised and get back into it. And yeah, so then I think I just pretty much had a straight bag of 36s, but they were nice fat fish. And yeah, I said Kim got his 38. I think he got another upgrade or two off that shore.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sort of targeting trying to get above 4 kilos for the day. So the mood picked up. We were feeling really good, and we just hammered that for the last sort of hour. Yeah, it was really great. It was just one of those 20 minutes that you asked for on tournament fishing. And it wasn't one that was, I didn't catch the biggest fish and the most fish or anything, but it was just that perfect little amount that I thought this might keep me up in the top 5 if I'm lucky.
Yeah, that's right. When you were talking, if we go back a couple of minutes and you're saying you hadn't got, you kind of bit down the dumps, shoulders down. In my mind, I'm thinking you just need a little bit of luck. You need to just hit a fish or something, and it's kind of exactly what happened.
Oh, absolutely. And Kim and I talked to me and said probably talking it up amongst each other because, when you're the subject of having those good times, it becomes a story that you can share. But it went from there was nothing happening, and it just seemed that just we were at the right place at the right time.
Mm.
A little bit of current started to go, and you could actually see the sort of tide line hitting across that little reef. And yeah, that's just when it started happening for us. So it was just, it was great. It was, even Kim said, I think he's been doing this for a while now, and he just said that was, a really good little patch of a tournament day. That's what we do it for.
100%. And it also comes down to the fact if you didn't have those last 2 casts, you could have had one, had a tap and gone, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
And
if we hadn't have thrown that back up in there, the electric was up and we were going.
That's right.
But then as soon as we caught that one, it was just that collective, all right, we'll give this a bit longer.
Yeah, that's right.
And they were just that really good quality and size of fish that we've been looking for.
Yeah. I know you've kind of touched on this throughout the interview, but what do you think would have changed in your fishing now? So you're fishing your local waterway and you've had 2 guys come in from interstate, so guys who typically don't know the water. Does it affect your fishing going on in the Derwent?
Absolutely impact my fishing moving forward, because probably guilty of just being stuck in my old ways. And I love a jerkbait bite. So hard bodies is just, and I think most Tassies do. And, if you talk to most 9 out of 10 Tasmanian fishermen, they'll probably go, I throw plastics occasionally, but every time the ABT or the Hobies or anyone comes down here, I think most of us go, we need to work on those techniques. And I probably haven't been on a boat with someone that, it's sort of like fly fishing. If I go fly fishing, I'll have a few casts and I will catch fish on hard bodies, so I'm going back to that. But when you're watching someone of the calibre of Joey and Kim's doing their thing, it's hard not to look at them and go, that's such an effective tool. I'd be silly not to learn how to get better at that. So I will be using plastics more from now on. I'll probably get back into my old ways of getting on the hard bodies, but they just challenge my thinking. And, throwing vibes in on shallow rocky shores, it's not something I do.
Yeah, that's right.
Throwing plastics in similar sort of areas, but I hadn't given them the chance before, but Joey probably enlightened me on how hard a bream will hit a plastic in the right situation. And I like that really big clunk on a hard body, but you can absolutely get that on a plastic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, after all that, look, it was enough to bring you back in second place. Actually, one more thing I want to ask before we move on. What sort of tackle were you running for the couple of days? So lines and leaders and that sort of stuff.
I was running J-braid on just a standard Daiwa TD Black.
Oh, yeah.
In the lightest class of that, whatever that is. I think it might be 8 pound or something off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But certainly leader, I'm just running 4 pound. And for the first time ever, I was actually fishing that gulp on another reel that just had 5 pounds straight through.
Right. Okay.
Because after the first day, they were just hitting it so hard. I just thought I just want something to fall a bit more naturally. And normally I worried about a bit of feel, and because I don't fish it much, I'm not too in tune to it. But because of the areas we were fishing, and I was sacrificing a few plastics and jig heads, so I just thought I wanted to fish straight through so I could get back in the game a bit quicker, especially as a non-baiter, because they were absolute gentlemen. They were very accommodating and probably let me do way more than I should have been able to do. But it was nice to run straight through to be able to just snap something off and get back fishing quickly.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a plan. All right, second place, mate. What did you get to take home?
I actually got a Shimano prize pack, which was a 721 Artiesta rod.
Oh, nice.
I think so. Again, something I'm really looking forward to because it's just an ultra light, slightly longer rod than I'd normally use, and just looking forward to just trying some different stuff with it. Should be good.
Yeah, no, that'll be a nice little rod.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to or say thank you to?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, Morgan and the crew, for Nicole, all the other people that bring it down and make it happen. I know a lot of us Tassie guys hang out for it and can't always enter every event with live stuff, but it's it's something that everyone down here really looks forward to. Obviously, Joey Gardner and Kim. Joey probably taught me more in a day than I've learnt in years for bream fishing, and it was good to be able to actually, soak it up and took that through to day 2. Kim was just another gentleman, just really nice bloke. It just felt like with both of them, just felt like a day out fishing with a mate, which was really good because it certainly helps me without the pressure. Yeah, it helps we got fish early on day 1 and day 2 we got there, but they're nice blokes. They pass the time. You have a chat. It's just a nice day out. It's really good.
So good. So good. All right, mate. Thanks for coming on and sharing. And mate, hopefully we get to have another chat to you at some point.
Beautiful. Appreciate the invite. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, mate. Okay, so coming in first place over an angler dropping 3 fish weighing 3.355. Backing it up on day 2 with his 3 fish weighing 3.93, giving him a total of 7.285. And the win, I have Marty Evans. Welcome to the show, mate.
Hey, mate. Thank you for having me here.
Mate, it's been a busy couple of weeks for you guys.
Yeah, pretty intense. 8 days out of 9 fishing. Not used to it. Pretty weary at the moment, so looking forward to a day off tomorrow.
Oh, fair enough. Well, that's good timing. And it's one of those things where we all like to fish a lot, but comp days in particular are pretty hard days, hey?
Yeah, long hours, like you're up and prepping early and then you're prepping at the end of the day and the travelling. And you're away from home as well, which is good times. And I think you enjoy the time after the event as well with the mates that you make on tours. So definitely extends out a little bit extra time, so you're very sleep limited.
Yeah. Just before we do get into the comp, how did you find the teams event and the format?
Yeah, no, really liked it. The only part I suppose I didn't like was the big bang at the end, I suppose, where you're weighing fish on the scales and it builds the anticipation. But I suppose it's pretty intense on the day because you're entering into the app and you're seeing where you are, and all of a sudden you're second or third, and next minute you're 6th, next 7th, and someone else is whacking them somewhere else, and it's like, am I doing the right thing? So all those things go through your head, but it's a really good idea. Guys that don't have live wells in their boat as well, I think that's a good enabler for them.
100%. All right, mate. For the Derwent River, mate, you obviously had a cracking comp, but what did you get up to in pre-fish? Did you get a chance to have a look around before the comp, or what did you get up to?
Didn't pre-fish the Derwent at all. I live on the Derwent, up into the estuary, very familiar with the river itself, so I fish it a lot throughout the course of the year, mainly for trout, not so much bream, but we do have a crack at that occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no pre-fishing for me. My boater and my mate, Tony Robertson, he pre-fished it once, so he lives 2 minutes away from the ramp, and spent more time pre-fishing the first event down the Huon. So, yeah, 0 pre-fish days.
Okay. Well, given that, without going for a pre-fish, what sort of lures are you taking down there? Like, what are you prepping with?
I'm an avid hard body user. I don't go to the plastics very often, and I don't think any of my fish during the whole series was caught on. Oh, sorry, the Huon had a couple, but 95% of my fish were caught on hard bodies. So baitfish patterns, I like obviously the double clutches, like the panishes, in shallows and deeps, shiny baitfish types that it's basically that resembles predominant feed in there. That's your fishing structure, and you're throwing crabs or you're throwing mussels. So,
okay. I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what I expect, especially for the Derwent baitfish profiles and long, skinny lures. Yeah.
Yeah, long, skinny lures representing, like, there was a massive influx this year of like anchovies in both river systems, and the fish were feeding heavily on those. You've seen it on social media leading up to the event, quite big, up to 80 mil. So, of that double clutch is about 80 mil, big double clutch. Yeah, your panishes are 65, 70 mils. So, resemble it pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Let's start with day one. Who'd you get paired up with? And tell us about how your day started.
Yeah, paired up with Johnny Ulbrich on day one. We had a bit of a plan, talked together. Johnny's been down a few times before, mainly as an on-boater, but this year he put his boat down and we hit up a shore at Risdon to start with, and I think pulled a 38 off that shore. Didn't see much else. Pretty going along there, and there's a couple of pilot boats pushing wake up onto the edge. So we moved on to greener pastures, and we flat up above Austin's Ferry, out in the middle, and caught a couple of little squeakers, 28s, for about an hour or so. So then it was on the move. So Johnny not being totally familiar with that end of the river, and I'm pretty familiar with that part of the river, we fished ashore on the right-hand side below Bridgewater Bridge, and which I'd pre-fished the day before with my boater, who wasn't going there, but did. Okay. And he was quite open with that. He's not going there, so it was comfortable to take John there and say, look, go over here, let's have a look here. Pre-fish, we pulled kilo fish off it. Comp day, we pulled 900 grams to 1.1 kilo fish off it. So fished there, then worked our way down the system, back down point to point, tried to find some more tide, and then the wind got up, and that was the end of the session, really. Like, Johnny got fish, I got fish. We probably caught 15 to 20 fish between us for the day. So Johnny had 4.7 kilos, 4.8 kilos.
Okay.
Day one, I had 3.3. So somewhere between the 900 grams and the 1.1 average, about a kilo. So
yeah,
really good. We had a cracking day. Johnny, great. So, and that's what I think that ABT boat and on-boat is about. Yeah, so we shared the information, and we both had a successful day, which was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, right. And in that time, like, if you're fishing edges, was it just a twitch and pause sort of retrieve? Is that what it kind of looked like?
Yes, twitch and pause, and longer pauses than the normal because of the cold weather the week leading up. So the fish sort of quietened down a little bit from what they had been before when Tony pre-fished it for me. Yeah, so we found that on pre-fish day, very long pauses, and then put it into practice on the Saturday.
Okay, and in terms of lures, was there anything that kind of stood out?
Yeah, the DD Panish, even though it was throwing towards pin rushes for me, get that down, twitch him down, hold him, let him pause. His neutral buoyancy sort of sits and slowly lifts off a bit. And, yeah, they took that on the pause. So, yeah, it was really nice to just whip it in there, drag it out from the edge, pause it up, and away they go. So next off she goes. Johnny was fishing a OSP eye waver. I've never seen them before, so some sort of witchcraft. But fish did like that. There's still one swimming around the Derwent, a horse with one of those $40 lures in their mouth. So
Ouch.
yeah. So, but they look pretty intense in the water. So they sink really slow, like a stick minnow. But I think a little bit slower than that. So yeah, I must invest in a couple of those.
It sounds like a plan. And look, actually a couple more things. So on the day, so you're twitching paws. Were they just nipping at the tails, or were they getting them right in?
Nah, that was right in. They were taking patterns right in. So, yeah, totally different to the second day.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I've got a bit of a pattern going there. And last thing, what sort of like leaders are you running down there, or lines and leaders?
So I use a 10-pound castaway with a 6-pound.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bit of structure there. There's sort of manky stuff on the bottom, especially in the mid-sections of the estuary. So we're extra. Sometimes it wouldn't matter what you had running over oysters. So, but yeah, it's definitely 6-pound for me. A lot of guys go to 4 or 3, but I think the fluorocarbon's pretty well invisible at 6, so it doesn't really hinder your lure action with your loop knots. So,
yeah, very nice. All right. Well, like we said, it was good enough to bring back 3.355, which is a pretty solid bag. Where were you overnight?
4th.
4th. Okay. So right in contact.
Yeah.
All right. Day 2, mate. Who'd you get paired up with, and what'd you get up to?
Got paired up with Isaac Harris. So Isaac likes to fish the bottom end of the estuary. Mm-hmm. So both worlds, obviously fish the top of the estuary the first day.
Yeah.
And we fished the bottom of the estuary at Ralph's Bay.
Yeah.
On day 2. Boom or bust. I've been there before and got donuts, or it can be quite electric. So we followed a couple of boats down on day 2.
Yeah.
It was a nice big southerly swell rolling up, but we were the boats pretty well. And if there was a few boats behind us, we were the only ones that stayed. A lot of the guys, 5 or 6 boats, pulled the pin around 11 to go back because they were not having any success. So we stuck it out and fished the shores. And there's, kunji down there that grows on the rocks that loves attracting lures. Once they're in, they're gone. So there's lots of bodies down there, lots of reefy stuff, and big fish. Hard fish, big fish. Yeah, my first fish of the day was a 42.
Wow.
Fork. Yeah, it was a cracker.
Wow, that is a cracker.
So that might have, my boater wasn't overly thrilled. He might have been backed off on the edge, and I was throwing over the edge and up on the flat, and pulled the 42. So then he proceeded to put 2 or 3 in the well around the 38.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a little bit of a grind, but we found fish on a few shores, and later between them rested and went back. We found the take was more so like if you're familiar with squid fishing with calamari, more of a grab hold of softly and pull back. It was like mouthing it. And to that point, I fought a fish and so did Isaac, almost to the boat a couple of times, and they just opened their mouth and let go of the lure. So they must have been eating it across the lure, like biting that. So they held on to it until the boat, and then just sort of opened up, out come the lure. It was like,
wow.
Oh, that's a 38. Oh, like 39. Yeah, so, yeah, but lots of structure for him to disappear around down at Ralph's. Yeah, so it was 42, 38. I think I had a 34 in the bag, and then upgraded with a 39, got a 35. I think I got 6 or 7 fish for the session. And then being as I am, I know Isaac needed an upgrade because he had a monster bag as well on the go. So I sat down for a little while and was net boy and was looking to see if we could see fish. And he got that 39.5 right at the end. So he ended up being the winning boater. He came from 12th place, jumped up the line, and I came from 4th with a 3.9. So it's It's pretty special to be able to fish both ends and get quality bags.
Yeah.
You know, there is some talk. You know, some people go, "Oh well, it's not really the Derwent." I've heard a bit of that today.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's like it's in the arena, so anyone could have went there.
I think that's key.
Plenty did, but yeah, look, it is what it is. That I think they're probably lucky that the arena was closed off at the Huon because there would have been some 7 kilo bags weighed.
Yeah.
If they had the arena open at the Huon where they could have went.
Yeah, right. It's interesting. A couple of things. So with going down to Ralph's Bay, did you beef up your leaders or did you stay with 6?
No, stay with 6.
Okay.
Stay with 6.
Yeah, like I've not been to Ralph's before, but I think I remember Morgo fishing it maybe 2 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, and seeing some footage of that and seeing you just touch the kanji with a lure and there it is.
Yep, she gone. There's 30. If you don't. Yeah, no, it is what it is. It's risk reward. So, yeah, it's a special place. But the river itself, you know, had really good fish this year, like really good fish. Anytime you get over 5 kilo bags, it's a great fishery. So,
yeah, no, that's very good. And on day 2, what worked for you? Like, I'm assuming you didn't stay with the panish.
I did have the panish on.
Yeah.
Also, I had double clutch on as well, little 60.
Mm-hmm.
More about just getting it sitting, casting it in between structure, rock and kanji, getting it down and where they're sitting beside the rocks. Well, you think they're sitting there. And also fish shallow as well. So this as an army, so fish that as well.
Okay. Yeah. It kind of, when you're talking about that, it reminds me of when we fish Foster and you're fishing between oyster leases and you've got an arm's length or less than an arm's length worth to work with. And then there's kilo or bigger fish in there. You're just trying to rip them out. Yeah,
that's where the grand final is this year.
Yes. There's multiple shows on that if you want to have a listen.
Yeah, I think I will go to the grand final. So, you know, you don't miss an opportunity to fish with the best.
100%. All right. And probably, look, last thing I think that's probably relevant is what sort of, particularly rods, but what sort of rods and reels are you liking for that sort of stuff?
1 to 3, 7 foot. I think my one of choice, because it's really whippy, is an old hyper rod from Daiwa, and 2,000, 2,500 reels. Daiwa. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like you're running the gauntlet there a bit. Like that's relatively light gear for big fish and gnarly structure.
Yeah. Yes and no. You've got to probably go down to get to casting so that you can get your accuracy and distance. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and I don't think I lost a fish at Ralph's.
Okay, that was my next question.
I may have had a couple sitting on the reefy, rocky, kanji stuff that probably any other given day they would have cut the leader and gone. A fishing partner, Isaac, he lost a couple in the reefs. Yeah, there's nothing you can do when they're 40 plus. You win some battles and lose some, but yeah, we won more than we lost.
Yeah, and as it turns out, you came back with a pretty decent margin. You're looking at sort of over half a kilo, which is pretty solid for that sort of event.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was thrilled and stoked to know that I'd get Isaac day 2. Like when it was announced, we knew that no one could get there on Saturday. Day 2 was going to be definitely an interesting day.
Very good. All right. Is there anything else we need to discuss about the fishing before we move off? Anything I've missed?
I think I've covered most of my lures, and Isaac used very similar lures.
Yeah.
That's what Johnny used. You know, the Huon was very, very similar as well. So, and then we moved to the teams event. Of course, at St Helens, which, as I'm a bit stubborn, I used hard. Didn't really have an ecstatic time there. No. Yeah.
That's right. You won 1 out of 3. It's not horrible.
Oh, no, yeah, 1 out of 3. I think we got 13th for the teams event. 21st of the Huon with an 820 gram average fish.
Yeah.
21st. You know, it's pretty special. That fishery's going to showcase next time. Hopefully the weather's good before it. It'll showcase what it is.
Wow.
The boys are all thrilled. catching volumes of fish. I think most people caught 15 to 20 or 30. In some boats, we're getting 60 fish down the Huon for a day. It's phenomenal.
So good. So good. All right. In any case, that was all good enough for you to come back in first place. What do you get to take home for first place?
So I got this lovely trophy, which we'll put pride above my other trout fishing ones and a couple of Breams that I've got there. Got some really good Daiwa gear. So sponsors are very important to the success of these. You know, we promote gear. They give us the gear. I think it's fantastic. So now I've got some plastics,
Yep.
a lot of plastic.
You have a crack.
So now I've got to learn how to use them a little bit better. You know, the round sponsors, Shimano handed out gear on the pre-fish night.
Nice.
And so did Duo for the Duo Teams event up at St Helens. So, you know, big thanks to the sponsors. You know, they're just, without them, we probably wouldn't be able to do it, or would be unaffordable really to get these put on. You know, the ABT, big shout out to those guys. Like the cost and the guys coming down to make the series really great. You know, the cost involved outweighs what you can actually win. So
Yes.
big shout out to them. They love fishing for big bream. They love fishing our areas. So I think most of them are having a fish today, whether it be the Scamander or Port Sorrel or my boater from the Derwent on day one. He was at Scamander this morning. So
Nice.
as we travelled back. So, but yeah, and you know, shout out to those guys from mine, Johnny Albrecht, day one on the Derwent, obviously Isaac, fantastic. Mario at the Huon, Mario Vukic.
Nice.
Yeah, Mars was fantastic. Showed me how to catch a couple on plastics.
Yep.
You know, great man. Day two at Scotty Wilson in the green machine, you know,
Yep.
big flies.
Oh, wow.
You know, and my fishing partner up here all the time for the teams event, Tony Robertson, you know, like absolute ripping bloke. I think he was more thrilled for the win than I was. We fish together every week and, well, every fortnight or whenever we can. And so he was as thrilled as I was to win the non-boater. So it was, yeah, absolutely fantastic.
So good. So good. All right. Well, look, thanks so much for jumping on and having a chat. And yeah, good luck in the grand final. I hope you do really well.
Yeah, I'll be watching some podcasts, I can tell you right now.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Enjoy the time.
Righto. So up next in a third place in the boating division, we have an angler dropping his 5 fish for 5.395. On the Sunday, he bagged out with 5 fish for 5.410, giving a total of 10.805 kilos. I'd like to welcome back to the Bream Fishing Project, Mario Vukic. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be back. Every time I'm back here, something good happens or happened.
That's right. How happened. Mate, we had a bit of a chat before we got on. And, mate, you're telling me everything's broken. What's going on?
Mate, these triple head comps, it's hard on the gear. I mean, I don't know why. I've got the motors sort of spluttering a bit and not going great. It's working, but it's not sounding great. And on the way up, one of my calipers on the trailer was locking on, so I had to turn the brakes off on the trailer and all my I don't know what it was. I hit a wave and now all my electronics sort of come on and then go off. So that means I haven't got I have to really watch the live wells and I've got no sounders. I've got live scope. That's about the only thing I've got, but that's all part of it. You know what it's like. It keeps you concentrating on fishing, actually.
100%. And given the proximity, like we're coming in towards the Sydney rounds, the Australian Open and Hawkesbury, mate, you've got a bit of work to do to get everything sorted out to then jump back in the car.
Yeah, well, the motor's booked in for tomorrow. The trailer's booked in for the following Tuesday. And as for the electronics, I won't worry about them until probably I come back, because finding what's the problem is, I'm not that good on that sort of stuff. But anyway, we'll be right.
Fair enough. All right, mate. Let's get into this one, mate. Derwent River. Tell us, did you get out and have a look around for a pre-fish?
Yep, I did. It was blowing pretty hard. It was pretty nasty weather, and a lot of people didn't go out. But at about 10 o'clock, I said to Mikey, come on, we've got a bit of a gap here. It wasn't raining. It looked all right. It was windy, but I sort of, knowing the Derwent, I sort of know how to navigate the river on the calm side. So I thought, let's just go out and for a few hours and see if we can catch a few, and we did.
Yeah, right. Right, okay.
Yeah. We sort of mainly concentrated between, mainly the middle bridge, which is the Bowen Bridge, up a little bit downstream of that on Bedlam Walls, but basically from the Bowen Bridge up, not quite up to the other bridge, but up to another river called the Jordan River, sort of in that area between the Jordan and the Bowen Bridge.
Okay. And on the day, did you work anything out? Did you key into anything?
I actually found 3 or 4 good spots. Yeah, one was sort of underneath the bridge on both sides. One was a bit down on Bedlam Walls. Mikey clunked a couple of nice ones on Bedlam Walls. Love that name. Is that the best name for a fishing spot, Bedlam Walls?
It is a good name, mate.
It is a good, yeah. So, and then upstream, just near the Jordan, there's a sort of a drop-off that tide really pumps on, and I only caught 1 fish there, but it was our sort of best fish. It was like a 39 fork, and I said, no more casting here, because I'd actually fished that spot before, and I thought that really suits my style, but it wasn't my go-to spot to start with. I thought I'll go there because I know not many people fish that sort of area, but the other spots that I caught them sort of get a few people on it, and I had a pretty early draw, so I thought I might have done those other spots first.
Yeah, okay. And like fishing in Tassie, it's obviously known as a jerkbait sort of heaven. Is that what you're planning on doing, or are you going to mix it up a bit?
I actually was going to do I was going to jerkbait early and then go to the plastics later on.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, let's roll into comp day and tell us about your day.
Okay, so I started just upstream of the Bowen Bridge on the opposite side to Bedlam Walls, where the sort of the entertainment centre and the side that Mona's on. And I'm about 200 metres upstream of the bridge, and there's sort of a really rocky, nice gradient bank, and then it drops off quite deep. And I threw double D panishes up on top of on the rocks, just bringing it across. And I caught me 5 fish, but they were small. They'd gone sour on me. They were all sort of 30 forkers. So I thought, okay, well,
it's a bag.
We're up and about, yep. So then we went the total opposite side. And again, 200 metres or 100 metres upstream of the bridge on the other side. And they were just as small. There was plenty of fish there, but they were just as small. They were for me.
Yeah.
And I jerk baited them and didn't really, maybe 31, 32 fork was the biggest fish I had. So then I did it with a plastic and they were actually small. I caught smaller fish with the plastic, so I thought, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Has it been your experience that down there that the fish are really congregated in different sizes? Like if you're getting 30 forkers, that's pretty much what you're going to get?
No.
Okay.
You find big ones in amongst them as well. That's what I've found, yeah. Don't, just because you catch the small ones. So in the pre-fish, a couple of those spots the one of those spots, I was catching small fish, and then out of nowhere, Mikey got a 37 fork in amongst all of that. So still give it a crack. There is bigger fish in amongst them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Where'd you move off to? What'd you get up to?
Well, then after that, I thought I'm going to fish my spot just downstream of the Jordan there, the one that I caught the big one on in pre-fish. And I was there a bit earlier than I was there in the pre-fish. So I was there about 12 o'clock in the pre-fish. I was there a bit earlier. So the actual wind was sort of pushing up the river. So when I did the pre-fish, I was going down the river. I was going up the river. And it was like, there wasn't really, most river systems, they don't pump in. They just sort of build up in, but when they turn, they always pump out, as you know. So I sort of fished that, and I started clunking better fish. Me and me non-boater, we were catching better fish. And this time I was throwing once on a 1/16th, just the sprat, the fork tail, the 75.
75, yeah.
Yeah, in the gun.
Why'd you change to that? Why'd you go to that and not a curly tail, or what was in your mind?
I wanted it to sink slower. I don't know, because it was a bank that sort of came again, like right up hard was was full rock, and then it came out to about 4 to 6 foot and then dropped off to 10. But using the beauty of LifeScope is you can see sort of where along that gradient they were, and they were basically right on that edge of the drop-off. So I wanted to throw up. There is the odd fish up higher, but I wanted to throw up and just bring it down slower and just wanted to waft around with the tide a bit more. I just thought that a sprat would sort of drift nicer than, like, I love grub. I throw grubs more than anything.
That's
but
right.
I just thought they'll just go in and then they'll just drop and sit on the bottom, where the other one would waft around a little bit. So that's why I picked that.
Yeah, cool. And you said you started getting some better fish.
I did, yeah. So I think I got a 36 forker pretty early up, and my nonny probably got about a 34, and then I sort of got a couple of 33s and 34s, and we finished that drift. I said, let's do it again. And then, well, basically we did that drift for, mate, it would have been 4 hours, just up and back, up and back. And I'd pick up the odd fish, the odd bigger fish. I wasn't on the fish to probably win. Having said that, I wasn't far off it, but there was a lot of 36, 30, not a lot, but that 36, 37 fish was as big as I could get, but they were in really good nick. I just needed that 39, 40, a couple of 39, 40s each day, and it would have changed. But that's, mate, I'll fish for them any day of the week. If I know I can guarantee anything over 5 kilos, I was happy, like really happy.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm looking at the weigh-in, like you're in the end of the comp, you're 330 grams behind first place. That's probably throwing out your smallest fish into a proper kicker. That's the difference. One bite.
That's it. It was yeah. So I reckon if I'd have caught that 39 fork I caught in the pre-fish and chucked out a 36, I would have been close.
Yeah.
Would have been up there.
I think so.
Yeah. That was part of the plan, though. I was going to, at some point in time, about 12, I was going to leave, or 1 o'clock, I was going to leave and just try and look for that bigger fish. So on day one, I just went up and down with basically the sprat the whole day. I didn't really change much. As you know, I don't sort of cycle through lures. I just got 6 or 7 confidence lures, and if one's catching for me, until it goes sour, I'll just keep throwing that same lure.
Yeah.
Just keep putting it in the right spot. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. When you moved off, did you go and find anything, or was that it for the day?
No, I went back to the spot where I started and caught small fish again, and then went downstream on Bedlam Walls. I thought, all right, well, let's have a good, and that went sour on me, and that was it. I left and I'd never upgraded. Never upgraded.
Okay. All right. Overnight, do you remember where you were sitting?
4th, I reckon.
4th, yeah.
Probably
so
4th.
Right up there. Very cool. For the Sunday, what was your plan? What were you going to do?
I wanted to swap a few things around. I was going to fish. I'm going to go to my A-grade spot first up because the wind was different.
Yeah.
So it was blowing down the river. So I thought it was a bit calmer, but I just thought, because it didn't get pressured, except for me going up and down there 4 hours, I just thought, and the way I fished it is I sat off it, and so I didn't really spook those fish on the edge other than me lure going through. So I didn't boat spook them or anything like that. I thought, all right, well, I'm just going to go and do that again and hope for the best, because that's all I basically got. Not that I'd panic. If I didn't catch it, I wouldn't panic. I'd go try and go and find something else. But I went and did the same thing again, but from the opposite direction. So I was drifting downstream this time.
Okay. And how did it play out? Did you start to get some straight away?
Yep, I did. But it was harder. It was a lot harder. I was lucky I was still on that quality. So I would get, a 32 or a 31 and then a 37.
Yeah, wow.
And then I'd do another drift and I'd get maybe a 34 or something, and then I'd do another drift. And the good thing is this drift went for about 150 metres and I never really got them in the same spot.
Wow.
Yeah, it was along that whole drift. There was certain pockets. I didn't work out why they were there or what the pockets were, but the thing was I was just going to do the same. I wasn't going to concentrate the drift or anything. I was just going to do the whole thing. I had a bit of an idea from the day before on where I'd caught the bigger ones, but it sort of didn't play out that way, but they were still there.
Yeah.
And because when it pumps through there, I'm sure that some of these fish come out of the deep and start sitting on the edge at certain points of the tide. So that's what I was banking on. And it was a lot harder. I caught maybe half the amount of fish as I caught the day before, but I still had 3 or 4 good quality fish doing that. But something changed. There was a lot of weed and stuff coming out of the Jordan, but the tide, I don't know why, I started pumping out really, like it was starting to run. So I just didn't have the confidence. I'd probably got 2 nice ones on the Sprat, and I changed it to the Daiwa Flick, the 295. And the reason I did that is because it's a smaller, thinner profile. I wanted it to sink a bit quicker.
Okay.
Because the tide was pumping a bit more. Yeah, a bit more current. And I wanted it to get into that strike zone a bit quicker. So I fished that with a 16th hidden weight. And the colour I used was red herring.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got the red razzle-dazzle flakes in, and it's got a sort of greeny back in it.
That's right. Yeah, green with a bit of red glitter through it.
Razzle-dazzle.
Razzle-dazzle. Exactly.
Razzle-dazzle. Yeah.
Okay, so how much, while you're drifting down these banks, you say you didn't have any exact spots. How much did the live scope play into it?
Not as much as you think. I never ever cast to a fish. I never thought, oh, there's one, I'm going to cast to it. No, I just saw it and I said, right, they're in the area. Knuckle down, fan your casts, and hopefully you're in the area where the fish are. I never ever cast to a fish though. But it just gave me confidence. Right, we're coming into an area with some fish. Make sure you're ready if you get the tick.
I think that's key, because it's like even if you're watching your normal down scan or whatever you're using, if you see fish, you're like, all right, get ready, and you concentrate that little bit better.
Yeah, 100% you do.
So, yeah. So how did you spend your whole day there, or?
No. So what happened was at about 12, the weed just started coming out of the Jordan. It's like that ribbon weed, that swan weed, and it was just, I couldn't fish it.
Yeah, right.
There was too much pump coming out. And so I thought, right, and I had sort of four good ones, similar to the other day, and one that was like a little bit smaller. So I reckon I was over 5 kilos, but I wasn't as much as the day before.
Mm.
So I went back to me first where I started the day before, on the entertainment side upstream of the bridge, the entertainment centre upside of the bridge. But instead of doing it with jerkbaits, I did it with that 295 Flick.
Okay.
And I clunked a 37 forker along there, which upgraded like a 34 or something like that, and had me very similar bag to the day before. I don't know what happened. Honestly, I don't know how. You know, when you get in that zone, it was about 11 o'clock where I just knew that Flick was going to catch. Wherever I was just so confident in that lure. I said, "Bug, I'm just going to throw that lure. That lure."
Yeah, okay.
Do you ever get like that sometimes when you sort of, I don't know, you just have a feeling. And
yeah, you just know.
You just know and you're confident with that, yeah. And it's not a lure I use a lot. It's not a lure I use a lot. But yeah. I don't know, it just felt good.
And did it match any of the bait fish that you saw down there?
Yeah, it did. Not perfectly, but the profile and sort of a bit of the colour. I mean, green back and with a translucent stomach, most bait fish look like that anyway. If they're blue or black or whatever, it's fairly similar. But the right profile, they've got that, I don't know, frog mouth anchovy or whatever it is.
And what about size-wise?
295. It was a bit smaller than the natural bait fish, but it's fine. It was fine.
Yeah, okay. Was there any more to the day, or did that pretty much round you out?
Did a few other like Bedlam walls, and I actually went down and fished some structure with the big heavy crab that I was just opposite Bellreeve there. I've caught big fish there before, but I never even looked like catching a fish there. So, but hey, it was worth a swing.
That's it. All right. And one more thing before we move off the fishing, mate, did you lose any that you think would have made a difference?
Not that I lost fish. I don't know how big they were. Some fish got off. When you catch when you're on, you're getting 5.4 kilos and you catch a big one, it's a big one, but they're all big. At 36, the difference between a 36 and a 39 at the start, when you lose them, like I never saw any of the fish I lost, but I hooked them and they went and then they got off or something like that. I knew they were good fish. There was one good one that sort of, I stuffed up one fish. I learned, you learn every time I learned the hard way. I'll tell you what happened. I flew to the edge and it hit it early, and not right on the drop. It hit it in about 2 foot. And as I told you, the wind was pumping, downstream on day 2, so I was drifting the other way. And this fish ran along the bank and then at the back of the boat and around the power poles and no problem. And the fish there, they fight different to the blacks in Victoria, where I'm from. And it sort of ran out into the deep water, but it was like I was getting dragged away from the fish with the tide and that, and I was making no ground. And I hit the panic button. What I did, I didn't. I didn't touch the drag. I touched the electric motor and I went to electric towards the fish. And as I turned the boat and electric towards the fish, I changed the angle and the pressure and bang, it came out. Just like that. It was the slightest subtle change in angle and pressure, and the lure come out, and I was filthy. And about 10 minutes later, I caught exactly the same way, exactly the same thing. He did exactly the same thing. I said, nah, I'm just going to play. If it takes me an extra 3 minutes, big deal. And
that's right.
Got it all the way to the boat, netted it, 36, 37 forker. I thought to myself, I just blew that fish. I can't blame anyone. I can't blame luck or anything. I blew that fish.
It happens. And did you have light? Were you running light leaders and stuff?
4 pound.
4 pound. Okay. So enough.
Pretty good. Good all round.
Yeah, very, very good. All right, mate. I reckon that's a pretty decent account. Mate, you ended up in a 3rd place. What did you get to take home?
It was close to $1,000, maybe 900 or $1,000 or something. Plus I got the Mercury bonus and all that sort of stuff. So it was over $1,000, which helped.
Yeah, pretty solid. Another badge for the collection.
Another badge. I was pretty happy. I got 3 badges on the weekend. That was good. Oh, the weekend. Basically 2 weeks away, but it was great. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. And the other thing, I think it'd be remiss if we didn't speak about it, mate. Mikey dominating there. Like he came up trumps, and I think there was so many people cheering for him.
Yeah, look, that was unreal. I think everyone's non-boating journey, they always want to fish at least once with Steve Morgan. And he drew Steve on day 2, and like Steve sort of pumped him up. He went up to him as he drove past him after day 1 saying, Mikey, we're going to have a good day tomorrow. As if to say, I'm on the fish, I'm on the fish. So that gave him a lot of confidence. And, you know what Steve's like. He who shares wins. He was unbelievable for him. He gave him every opportunity to catch fish. And the good thing is he caught him his way. He didn't catch him Steve's way. He caught him his way.
That's right. No, he did very well. And I think he threw the 395.
Yeah.
And I haven't spoken to anyone else that threw that, which was interesting, which was why I asked you what was the difference in the size of the bait fish to the 295.
Yeah, it's a bit smaller, but I threw that 395, but caught small fish on it.
Oh, there you go. All right, mate. We're all pretty happy about that. Mate, last thing, before we shoot off, mate, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, obviously Steve and Nicole, the ABT. Just love doing the ABTs and any of the comps. We're pretty lucky in Victoria. We've got really well-run comps. Non-boaters, they were all really good. Atmosphere on the boat. I love fishing with non-boaters. I hate having a spare, believe it or not, fishing by myself. I don't know. I reckon I fish better when other people are around. Yeah, and look, the guys that I travel with, if you're having a good time, you're fishing well. And like, say, Mark Hayes and Jesse Rotten and Mikey and Pete Maisie and, all those sort of guys, they're just, it's just fun. I mean, we laugh the whole time. And we've got a rule. When you walk into the house at 5 o'clock on Saturday, you shouldn't know if you caught 6 kilos or donuted. It's over. Well, you don't gloat or you don't kick it, and you don't kick the cat either. When you don't catch him, no big deal. And when you do catch him, that's still no big deal.
Oh, that's very, very cool. All right, mate. Well, look, as always, mate, I appreciate you jumping on and having a chat.
Yep.
And, mate, I look forward to bumping into you in the Hawkesbury round and probably the Oz Open, probably where I'll see you. So.
Yeah, really looking forward to it.
So, yeah. All right, mate. Thanks again. We'll talk to you again soon.
Right, mate. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, so next up in second place, we have an angler dropping his 5 fish weighing 5.640, backing it up on the Sunday with 5 fish for 5.460, giving him a total of 11.1 kilos. And second place, I have Steve Morgan. Welcome back, mate.
It was a good Tassie tour for me for once. I've had one down here, but it was a good one. I seem to make a lot of correct decisions for once.
100%, but you did get the bridesmaid position in the end there.
That was okay. I sort of feel like a bit of a tosser if I would win both of them down here. And I didn't actually think the margin was as narrow as it was. I thought it was a couple 100 grams. And then at the end, someone goes, that was only like 30 grams in that. It's like, oh, yeah, I lost that fish heaps of times. But how good was it to see Isaac, he risked it and he got the huge bag down at Ralph's. And 100% I respect someone that can go and do that and gamble. He's coming back from a kilo behind to take the win, so good on him.
100%. Yeah, that was obviously a massive bag to come in and run over the top. So, yeah, well done.
Interestingly, some interesting stats from Tassie is I've now won more ABT qualifiers in Tassie than any other state, and it's the furthest away from me. And I don't even have black bream at home. How does that happen?
I don't know. You must have a thought. Like, why? Why is that a thing?
I don't know. Maybe black bream reward. See, I don't do a lot of research before I do tournaments. I don't go and ring people up and read old reports. I just like building on what I've learned before. And the Derwent is one of those rivers, and the Huon was as well, where you look at a spot and you think, there should be fish there. Guess what? There is fish there. So over the years, I've won a couple of times at St Helens. I've won the very first one we done on the Derwent and now the first one on the Huon. So I also reckon that I like fishing venues for the first time. Like, when you go to a venue for the first time, there's no history. You can't go and find out whether the guy won it last year. You can't do any of that stuff. You just got to wing it, and I tend to like winging it. And it tends to, especially on non-tournament fish venues like the Huon, there's never been, we went a trial there, but it's never been as intensively fished for bream probably as for the last time we were on there. That's when the stuff that looks good always fishes good, right? It's not like, maybe that's why Queenslanders do well in Sydney Harbour. We just fish everything that looks good, not everything where people have won tournaments before. And maybe we get the fish that people aren't throwing at. Who knows? But it is weird that the Tassie's my strongest state.
Oh, who knew? All right, mate, you're just straight off the back of a win. What about pre-fishing for this one? What did you get up to?
I did go for a pre-fish. I pre-fished by myself for this one, and we stayed for the 2 events. We stayed at a place called Sandfly, which was halfway between the Huon and the Derwent. So each day we had this little bit of a commute each way, maybe 20 minutes to half an hour each way the venues were. But it was good to not have to move base halfway through that week. So we jumped in, put the boat in, and I ran every single spot where I've caught a giant bream in the bottom half of the Derwent for the morning, all the way from down near that West Point Casino, Lindisfarne Bay, all of the hits where I've, just places where I've caught them. So I ran all of those spots, and I reckon I had nothing in the first 3 hours of pre-fishing. Literally everything was barren. And it's we've had the rain, of course. We had a lot of rain just before the Huon event. Maybe it's a time of the year where those bream are starting to pre-spawn and starting maybe to move back up the river. I got to some of my historical spots up in Marilla Bay, and that's probably halfway between the real oceanic Derwent and Bridgewater Bridge, which is where it's nearly sort of trout country up there. And as soon as I got into that bay, I pulled into a place called I call it Caravan Park Bay. It's where the caravan park with a good rock bar coming in. Caught a decent fish off that, and then it was a run-out tide, and I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to know how these fish move. let's put the scope down in perspective mode, and I'm going to look through this bay and to see if all the keggers are living in the back of the bay, and as the tide runs out, they pack on the front of the rock bar, or whether the fish are just sort of moving up and down the river proper and they end up in spots on the rock bar. So I spent a good hour in the back of this bay looking over the whole bay, and I scoped 5 bream in the back of the bay, and I would have had a combined bag limit of 2 kilos for 5 fish. So the big ones weren't in the back there, but at least I sort of knew that. From there, I had a tournament back in probably 2008 or 2009 where I spent the whole tournament going between Caravan Park Bay and then a place called Old Beach, which is on the other side of Marilla Bay. The river gets really wide, and I can see one spot from the other. So I remember I'd fish one spot for half an hour, and then I'd run to the other spot, fish it for half an hour, always keeping an eye on whether anyone's fished the other spot, like resting the spot. And then after I'd worked that other spot, I just bounced between those 2 spots all day, and I could do a whole tournament doing that and coming with over 5 kilos every day each time I did it. I hit the Caravan Park Bay. I got a 2 kilo limit. I went across to Old Beach side, and in 5 casts I had probably 4 kilos. And they were like, the birds were working a bit out there. Those anchovies were sort of in there. It was happening in that part of the river, which was great because there was literally nothing I could catch in the whole bottom half. And I thought, and that was about it for me. I came in at maybe 1 o'clock. I didn't fish it too hard. I caught 4 or 5 along there. I went, and there was a dock near there. I put one of Callum Dow's little musses on. He sent me a couple of little musses. I pitched it in, got a kegger. Oh, that was fun. Threw it in again, got another 800 grammer. So I better stop doing this. And I sort of gave up then. I thought, well, that'll do me. I went and had a look at the stick in the middle in Marilla Bay. There's a big oyster reef marked by a stick. There was no fish on that. It was sometimes it's loaded, it wasn't loaded. And I sort of thought that'll do me. I'll just build it from there. I'll go out on day one. I'll start on this one bank, and I reckon I'll just keep on moving upstream to find the fish. And that was the plan. Only had one plan, Plan A. That was it.
Plan A, exactly. And you said you threw the little muss. Did you stay with the double clutches and things?
On that day, yeah, the 60 mil, the deeper, well, it's not the Huon, it was a 75 mil shallow double clutch. This was the 60 mil, which is the medium-sized double clutch. It's got a slightly bigger bill, again in chrome colours like Kawamutu or any of the old, the garfish one, the special colour from last year. I had 3 or 4 of those. I don't have them anymore. They're gone. But those ones that it was a slightly steeper bank in the Huon. I was fishing very shallow water. The Derwent has steeper banks, and what I look for in the banks on the Derwent is a mixture of current and then something that breaks the bank up. Either that's a little rock point, it's a beach turning into rock, it's a point coming out with all oysters on it and mussels on it. You just need something to give a little bit of an eddy and something for them to come up and feed on, and they don't move too far from that. So the old beach spot had all of those things. It had wind blowing on it, it had current coming past it, and all those fish were sort of coming off the edges. And I could see them on the forward facing. I didn't know whether they were all bream, but I just saw a lot of fish in that 3 to 5 foot mark sort of as it sloped down off the edge. So that was the plan, get up to the top end of that and fish it with the wind on day one.
Fair enough. All right, let's move into day one, which was a Saturday. I can remember that because it's a weekend comp.
Finally a weekend comp.
Yeah, I don't know which day it is. So, Saturday's good. Tell us how it actually played out for you, because you got a pretty decent bag.
I did get a decent bag day one, and it started off exactly the same as my day one on the Huon started off. I forgot my sunglasses. I had a head torch on, and when I put a head torch on, I'd take my sunnies off, and they were in the car. So on day one at the Huon, I had to run up to the car the minute before we started. In the Derwent, the car was too far away. So I started boat number 12 or 15 or something like that, and I turned right into the marina and drove all the way back up for 5 knots to where my car was parked. Walked out or ran out, got my sunnies, got back in the boat and gave everyone a 10-minute head start. And because I was sure that there was going to be someone on that Old Beach bank. So on the way up, I was fishing with Will Thorpe. There was a nice wind blowing on the bank at Gilston Bay. It was lower than the river. I didn't catch in that part of the river the day before, but it looked so good. It's like, you know what, let's just fish this while it's up and high. And I think I did catch I caught one 34-centimetre fish there that was sort of bleeding a little bit. I was a bit worried about it. And I think I caught another legal there before I said, nah, screw this, let's go up and we'll fish the Old Beach spot. Went up there, got on it, and it was on again straight away. So I reckon I would have, it's a bit hazy because I've had so many days on the river, but I reckon by the time we'd finished fishing that 400-metre stretch and then the dock at the end of it, I reckon we both had our limits by then. Like jerkbaiting, Will was using the Duo, either the Rosanti or the Realis 80. The Rosanti 63, he's a Duo-sponsored guy, so he loves his shallow jerkbaiting. I was using that double clutch, and he would have had a bag of 33s and I would have had a bag of sort of 32 to maybe 36s by, and again in that first hour or so. But then again, it was like it probably wasn't a bag much bigger than 4 kilos, so it's like we're going to need bigger fish than this today. So in the end, the gun spot for us, we did that bank once. The second time I did it, I went further up and I started maybe another 200 or 300 metres higher on the bank, got fish there and did it down. When I went up to do it a third time, there was a boat that moved onto the point. I was going to go back up at the point and move down. So I said, you know what, I'll go around that boat. He was fishing back down the bank the same as me. We'll go up around the corner and we'll fish upstream with the wind. It was against the tide, but it was with the wind. And that was just another good luck decision because I think both of us upgraded nearly our whole bags in that stretch as well. So the current was running out, the wind was pushing in. It actually was really rough, but it was quite easy to fish because the boat wasn't moving that fast. We might have copped a few waves over the back, but we just kept the boat in the right area, throwing it right up on the edge, twitch, pause, twitch, pause, and one of us would be taking off. I reckon we would have had 4 or 5 double hookups that day as well. Plenty of double hookups. Did I have a giant? I didn't have any giants. I reckon all my fish were like 35s and maybe a 37 or 2 in there. I weighed one of the 30. Will had some scales. I weighed a 35 and the 35s were going a kilo, which is a centimetre less than they normally are. Normally a 36 is a kilo. They were in good nick, the fish as well. So I knew I had mid to high 5s there, but I didn't have any real standout fish. Normally when you do well in a tournament, you get a 39 or a 40 or a 42 or something like that. I reckon, as usual, there was like a centimetre and a half between the biggest and the smallest. Maybe they were all like 36 to 37 and a half or something like that. I'm not. You can watch the highlights if you want me to find exactly what they are, but it was a lot of fish in the day. It was all shallow jerkbaits. And I suppose the variation how I'd normally fish the place was I probably fished them a little bit slower than I normally would. So the water was 11 to 12 degrees. It was quite cold. It gets cold when that rain, that fresh water comes down because it was pretty freaking cold when it was coming out of the sky. So the adjustment I make when it's that cold is it's like a slackline twitch. It's like twitch, but I'll leave it for like 2 seconds instead of 1 second. So I'm not like bait fishing with it as drifting down the river. It's instead of just going rip, it's more like a rip, pause to rip, just leaving it that little bit longer. And a lot of fish you'd feel them, just as you're about to rip it again, you'd feel that thunk and they'd eat it. They just takes them a bit longer to get up. So again, it was the double clutch 60 on that day, but I was very aware that Will was doing really well on the Duo Realis 80. And that's an 80 mil long jerkbait, and it's a real shallow diver, and he was getting a lot of fish in shallow with it. So I put that in the memory banks for the Sunday. I'm not sure whether we fished some of the oyster reefs on the way back, but if I did, I didn't catch anything that really counted on them. And got back half an hour early as usual, but we'd done all of our damage by lunchtime, I reckon. It was a pretty good day of classic Derwent River jerkbaiting. It's why you go to Tasmania.
Exactly. And just one thing on that, with the fish, you had a little bit of a pause. Were they getting the lures properly, or they just getting the tails on, or how was the hookups on them?
So it was interesting. In the Huon, a lot of the time, the fish would nip the tail, and you'd hook them in the mouth with the rear treble, and then the second treble would go into their pectoral fin, and then they would fight really hard because you're fighting a fish which is always quartering you. So they you think they're a trevally, but they're not. They're just a bream that's nipped it. When you had the bite periods, I reckon I'd have a lot more fish that would be hooked on the middle treble, and the second treble would be hanging off them. You could tell when they were not nipping at it, when they were eating it properly, you'd hook them on the middle treble. And then the real big ones, you'd hook them on both trebles, and that's the ideal thing, right? When you get one treble on one side of the mouth, one on the other side of the mouth, and they're like crank a crab head shaking it all the way out. It was interesting that going into this Tassie event, I probably liked the faster taper rods for jerkbaiting. I liked the LFSs, the infeed LFSs. But by the end of it, I was really preferring the regular tapers, the blue infeeds. That's the LRS. a 742 LRS with that 3-pound fluorocarbon on it, a 2000 size TD Black. They'd nearly never break it off. Passed really well, and just seemed that action was a little bit more subtle in the water for that cold water. I've changed my mind on what I like jerk baiting with now.
Very interesting. All right, where were you overnight?
Second place overnight. Leading was James Graham, who's an expat WA guy living in Queensland now. So how was it? We were in Tassie. The water was 11 degrees, and there was Queenslanders 1 and 2.
I don't know how that works, but yes.
I don't know what sports bet odds would have been on that. They wouldn't have been real. They would have been pretty big.
Well, there you go. All right. Second place, tell us how your day played out.
So second day was a lot better weather. Like, it was forecast to be. First day was probably 15 to 20 knot gusts. Second day was 10 knots forecast. So that's why the Isaacs of the world went to Ralph's Bay, because you need good weather to fish that place. It gets stirred up and dirty when it's real rough. And in the morning, Healy, Cromo, Brukel all told me they're all doing Ralph's. By 2 hours or into the second day, I'd seen all of them except Isaac back up the river. So I'll go, either Ralph sucked or it got real rough on the way down, or they didn't hold their nerve. And one of them held their nerve and won the tournament. But I did see all three of the other guys run up the river later in the day. It was a little bit harder on day 2. I, of course, started doing exactly what I did the day before. I didn't do anything except go straight to the old beach spot. I got a limit pretty quickly there, but they were smaller than the day before. Instead of averaging 35, 36, 37s, they were sort of 32, 33, 34s. And I reckon I ground enough out so that I would have had maybe high 4s, 4.6, 4.7, maybe a 34 centimetre average, 34 to 35 centimetre average. What really saved me on the last day was I sort of wore out the bank that I was on, and there was a few more boats on it on the second day. It's like, as soon as I started glassing off, it was like, these fish they're not going to like this. I know that when it doesn't blow in Hobart, it gets harder. So I actually just kept on going upstream, and I tried to fish the money bank from the day before that was around the corner. That's just opposite the Cranberry factory. That didn't work, or it didn't work well. I might have got 1 or 2 fish. So I just said, I'm just going to keep on going up and exploring. So I got up to a place called Austin's Ferry, which is where we won the first ever tournament. And I know that a tournament had been won in there in the past when some baitfish got stuck into this bay. I said, well, that'll be good. That was 15 years ago. Let's have a look in this bay. So I put the scope down. On the point on the way in, I caught a one that didn't help me. And I started scoping around the back of this bay, didn't see anything, and then I just start seeing a few fish. Caught a little one, maybe caught a 30, catch a 32. I got onto this real shallow point. I'd actually swapped over to that Realis 80, the real shallow diving one, and I actually saw on perspective mode a couple of fish that actually looked pretty big. But it was pretty calm by then. It was sort of nearly glassing off. It was quite clear water. It was shallow. I could see the bottom everywhere, but I could actually see on scope a few fish that I couldn't see with my eyes. Threw a cast out to them. I don't remember whether I saw them come out on perspective mode, but I definitely saw the lure and I saw the fish on forward mode. And even though it was only like 30 foot in front of the boat, I couldn't see it work. So I started watching forward view and I'm just twitching it. I go, that's a good fish, that one. Twitching it. And finally there was 2 of them, and then one of them committed to it. And that ended up being a 40 forker. And I threw out a 34 forker to put a 40 forker in. So when you do the maths on that, that's like an 800-gram fish out and a 1.4 in. So that's a 600-gram upgrade from high 4s. That puts you to mid-5s. So that was like, now I was the guy that had a lucky fish. I like being the guy that has a lucky big fish.
Well, that's right. That's right. And look, massive upgrade. That would have put you back in 5th or 6th.
That's right, yeah. And when you do the maths at the end, it's like always there's that bloody guy that catches the one big one that beats you. But, Isaac caught all the big ones. I think he had a bag of 38s and higher, so his were good. But that one fish, definitely made a huge difference to me, and I'm glad I was the one that caught it for once. And it was totally out of context. I hadn't scoped any big fish in the back of this, in the back of any of the bays that I fished. But just that one fish, it was like, oh, I can catch that one fish, and I did it. And then after I caught that fish, the bite sort of got better and better. I reckon I would have caught another. I remember I had 4 last casts. I've got to go. I've got got to get back to the weigh-in. I'm going to have a last cast, and I caught a fish on it, and I said, well, I'm going to have another last cast. And I caught another fish, and it's like, well, I can't stop now. Third last cast, I didn't catch a fish. I'll go, well, I can't not catch a fish on my last cast. So I had another cast, and I caught another one. And they were all good fish, are all 30 to low 30s, but they didn't count. So my memory of the Derwent is scoping up at Austin's Ferry, catching 3 fish in my last 4 casts and saying that was a pretty bloody good day as well.
100%.
That river on the way back down, sitting on 105 k's an hour the whole way down. It was pretty cool.
Very good, very good. And as it turns out, mate, you were just one relatively small upgrade from first place, just 40 grams.
You can always look back. I did miss out the bit where I did go. I had a look at we call it the stick in the middle of Marilla Bay. It's that big oyster reef. There were 2 boats on it. One was Mark Healy, one was maybe Pete Maisie or something like that. They were there and they were clumped around one part of it. I fish a few isolated reefs that are off the side of it, and I knew no one had fished them because I got to the first one. I got a mark in it. I got up to it. I can see on the perspective, mate, it looks like cauliflower coming up because it's all literally it's 100% oysters, this reef. And I go, there's a few fish on the top of that one. I threw out. I wound it down. Twitch, first twitch, boom, and you get eaten. It's like, okay, no one's touched this reef. I think I caught the first one, which was a small one, but on that one reef, I reckon 1 pulled out and 2 fish proper smoked me where they run all the way across the reef. And because the reef's only 4 foot deep and everything else is 8 foot deep, when they get off the edge of the reef, they follow the bottom down. So that 3-pound line, all it's got to do is touch an oyster and it's gone. So I dropped one that the hooks fell out and I had 2 that smoked me on there. And retrospectively, you could say, one of them might have been a decent upgrade. Yeah. What I did learn in Tassie is if a fish runs for like 10 metres, it's big. Like you can have a fish run fast and hard, but it's the proper ones, the 36 and higher ones, they always, without the hooks being, if they just got the hooks in their mouth naturally, they still will run a long way on 3-pound line. It's when you get that zzz, zzz, and you go, oh, this one's going further than normal. That's when you know they're big. And to get off the edge of the reef, they've got to run that 20 or 30 metres. So they've got to get over the edge of it. So retrospectively, you could say I lost it there a few times, but I don't look at the negatives. I look at the positive of that 40 that I caught at the end. That's the blessing, isn't it? Not that or me for losing them on the reef.
No, that's exactly right. All right, mate. That's a cracking account. Moving into, what did you get to take home for this one? You've come second. What was second place here?
About $1,500, which will help pay for the exorbitant ferry costs over there. I think a return ferry with a cabin is like nearly $4,000 for my car and boat.
Okay,
it's ridiculous. If you got a caravan on the back, it's like half that. They like penalise you for having boats. I know the pub test is that that's stupid. Caravan guys don't buy accommodation. We've had all of these arguments with the government. We've tried every avenue. You just got to grab your ankles when you go to Tassie with your boat. That's just the fact. And that's why we only do it every 2 years. Like we burn money going to Tassie, so we only do it every 2 years. I'd like to pay every 2 years. That'd be good. That's a great idea. Who do I talk to about that?
I don't know. All right, very good. All right, mate. With this one, mate, last thing before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, the second event was sponsored by JML, and I always try to use some sponsors' product in there. And it was funny because the Duos played in the JML round, but the JML Aquas, they played in the Duo round. So sometimes I try to use the product of the sponsors, but it sort of worked, but it just worked in a different order at this one. So Tony and the team from JML are great. They make those great new crab weights now. It wasn't a crab bite. I even talked to Stizzy after the do, and I said, how many fish you catch on crabs? He goes, not many. It wasn't a crab bite at this stage. It can be a crab bite on the Derwent. Like I've had tournaments where I've caught my whole limit on crabs there. But when those baitfish get in the river, they get really focused on silver, slender profile things, and they happen to be jerk baits. So that's what it's all about.
Very good. All right, mate. Thanks for jumping on again. And, mate, I'm sure I'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Stevie.
G'day, Steve Morgan, Australian Bass Tournaments with the winner of the boater section of the JML round of the Daiwa Bream series here on the Derwent River. Isaac Harris, he's a man. You've done it before, mate. Was it 2 years ago?
Yep, 2 years ago. 2
events in a row. That's back-to-back wins on the Derwent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, when we say on the Derwent, we all know that your favourite place is Ralph's Bay just down the road here. And day one, Didn't let you get down there. The weather was,
it was horrible.
Hobart special, wasn't it?
Yep. So I just went upriver and didn't pre-fish that much and just pulled up on a bank and hope for the best. And
And caught yourself a bag which ended you up sort of just above midfield. You're sitting in 12th place.
Yep.
That bag was 4.725 kilos. And even though you think that's an ordinary bag, most people watching this are going to go, I would love to catch 4.7 kilos anywhere on the mainland. What did the damage for you on day one?
Day one was all plastics.
So all plastic. So that's a Hurricane Sprats, is it?
Yes. Yep, on like a 1/16th jig head.
Yep.
But I went to a 1/12th and then a 1/8 after that.
So you went heavier and heavier?
Just as the fish dropped off.
Yep. And what outfit you fished that on? That's a...
it's an NS1 with a 2004 exist.
So not dodgy gear on there. And what braid and lead have you got on that?
I'm not sure about the braid, actually. I think it's the new, Damien, is it?
What braking strength is it?
0.6 with a 6 pound leader.
And a 6 pound leader on there. And it looks like you use about over a rod length of leader.
Yeah, so it never goes, the knot never goes onto the reel. Yeah.
All right. So that was day one. How many fish did you plough through on day one? Lots.
70, I reckon.
How many 30 to 33 centimetre fish are there in this joint?
Oh, just squillions.
Everywhere.
It's unreal.
And you find yourself, again, in the Derwent, you find yourself just polling in 32 and 33s because it doesn't matter if you lose them.
Yeah.
You're going to get to another one next cast.
Yeah, you just kept you go 28, 32, and then maybe a 36.
Yep.
You think, and then you just go back to 20 or 30 to 34 to 25.
And that bag of 4.725, that's a bag of 35.
Yeah, 35s, 34s, and I think it was 136.
Yeah.
All
right, so going into day two, we all know that Ralph's has got big bags in it.
Yep.
But it's not a guarantee down there, is it?
No. I was a little bit sceptical because it was so cold this morning, but they can be a bit funny sometimes.
So when the water temp goes down, what was the water temp down there?
11,
which
is extremely low.
That's pretty cold, and it's only 12 or 13 up in the river.
Yeah, so that's probably the coldest I've fished it in a long time. So
when do you reckon they leave that joint? Do they stay there all year, or do they come up and spawn? Who knows?
Maybe May. They'll start pre-spawning and then they'll just move off and the whole bay just empties. There's a few stay there because there's a few creeks that they hang around, but they don't spawn in there.
No, because they haven't got enough water to do it. All right, so your day on Ralph's, it's not the same, is it? It's not 70 fish day. It's a quality over quantity day.
Yep.
So take us through your day today.
I think I got one fourth cast or fifth cast. It was 38 fork.
Right.
And then Marty got a 41 or 42. So there's big fish here. Wasn't seeing much because the water was so dirty.
Yep. When you say so dirty, normally
just
crystal clear
it was just stirred from the wind.
Okay.
Just being pounded for a couple of days.
And you're fishing what depth of water? A couple of feet?
From a foot to 2 metres probably.
And all of the rough water, it was a bit rough this morning, wasn't it? To keep all that particle suspended.
It was calm. It was rough on the way down.
Yep.
But it was calm where I was fishing. So once the tide moved in, it sort of just cleared up.
Yep.
Yeah, just sunk and
And awesome. So take us through the gear that you use today. Is it
2 rods,
elephant guns down there because of the big fish, or what?
Yeah, pretty heavy drags.
Take us through the first one.
It's just a Smith Panish. It's a good depth for that sort of stuff. And
what's the pole?
That is a BK Custom.
I've never seen one of those before.
Yeah.
It's very handy. It's got the carbon fibre butt on it.
Yep. I pretty much get all my rods done now, just real heavy, thick through the butt, but just a little bit of tip. Yep. Especially for those Rouse fishing on rocks.
Yeah, that's like I call that a bass rod, not a bream rod.
It's a G Loomis blank. It is a bass blank.
And the old Panish has been a favourite down at the Derwent forever.
Yep.
Factory hooks, no worries.
Yep.
Straight on, and that's a little, what's that?
It's a Revelry.
A Revelry?
Yep.
One of the new Revelries, what pound break? 0.6 PE?
Yeah, it's the Daiwa J or the
Expedition?
Yeah.
And what sort of leader?
Same.
So
6 pound.
Yep. So you don't up it that much because they've got to eat it, don't they? Okay, that's one of the rods. What's the other?
That's another BK.
That is a mean rod. That is
it is heavy. It's a Phoenix blank, I think.
All right. So that's 7 foot 1, 4 to 10 pound. It's got written on it there, and that's what is it? One of the Certates.
Yep.
An MQ there, and what's that bait you got on
there? That's a Hurricane Twitch 50 in laser gar.
So that goes a little bit deeper than the Panish, or
so I threw that a lot, really just close to the rocks.
Yep.
A bit later in the day, and also early, but that was getting smashed.
How many times did Bream steal your lures down at Ralph's, or was it?
Once.
Only one loss?
Yeah,
okay.
Which was pretty good. Pulled a few hooks and then got roasted by a good one. Yep. It was so gnarly down. It just went. There's nothing.
Do you find yourself up and winding?
It just was big and just kept going. And I think I was on the power pole and it was just a mess. And
Well, you can't expect to get 100% of that joint, but what you can expect is if you get a good bag, you can come from 12th place to first place, win $3,000 and a qualification to the grand final.
Yep, perfect.
What's the chance of you getting to Foster and doing some topwater yellowfin fishing this year?
We'll see. I didn't go to the last one, so I might come over.
Well, see, there's a lot of people in that part of the world that might be able to loan a boat, so they might be able to fly in or do something special. So if you want to do a reciprocal trip with Isaac and you live in the Foster area, maybe give him a call. You can take him to Ralph's. They can take you to Foster.
Sounds perfect.
Everyone will be happy. Anyone you want to thank?
Naughty and Hurricane Lures, and obviously you guys, everyone for turning up, and probably Adam for lending me the boat again.
Yeah, he's a good man.
He's just my road. He lent me his kayak and lent me his boat.
He's living vicariously for you, and he's doing a good job.
He must have a lot of trust in me.
Congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
2 in a row in the Derwent. He is the man to beat, Isaac Harris, already in the grand final.
Okay, so that's it for the Derwent River. Another cracking event with lots and lots of fish caught, almost full bags all the way through. Not quite, but very, very close. And that wraps that up for our standard rounds for the ABT in Tassie. The next one from the ABT Tassie will be the teams event. And that was a pretty cool event. Really enjoyed watching that with a different format. So that's one to keep your eye out for. Apart from that, I'm going to leave it with you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening all the way through. We're right at the end now, and I will talk to you next week on the Bream Fishing Project. Maybe it's tomorrow. Hard to know.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you were informed, inspired and entertained. If you were able to learn something or just enjoyed listening, please consider subscribing and rate us on your favourite podcasting platform.